All right, I thought I'd make a schizo post of a video today, but I'm very well, sort of proud of it in a sense, but it's not really my doing or anything entirely. Um, um, Basically, around 2004 to 7 or 8, my friend told me various things, and he told me to search up Susu no exactly one time on my computer, which I did on Google. And if Google's history vaults of search engine history is accurate in their vaults, which it isn't in their public search data information, unfortunately, so I don't know if they have the accurate stuff or not. But if they do have it, then basically anyone investigating me for opposing Epstein secret pedo cabals stuff, anyone with that level of power that can scare Trump, all they need to do is look into Google's vaults, if they have that reach possible, and they'll find out that I had like Ruiner video game, which came out in like 2017, Vermintide search term came out in 2015. Search term was like 2004, 6, 5, 6, 7, somewhere in there. And Barden and Sosonoferin and Ultra Instinct and some other terms like that and so on that only came out 2015, 2010 or later. Billy Bat, 20th Century Boys, although 20th Century Boys had already existed at that point, whereas Billy Bat did not. Or at least I don't think it did. I'm pretty sure it didn't. But anyways, I'm covered no matter what, basically, because anyone that has that kind of power to scare Trump into submission can look into my search term history, and they'll be like, how the hell did he know about those things before then? And the answer is my friend told me, you know. And he told me specifically to scare off the feds from doing any nasty shenanigans for my activism and so on. Because I'm against the psychopaths ruining the world and so on, and they want to stay in power and be predators on everyone, and anyone that resists them might be a target and so on. And they can't really do anything to me that I haven't done to myself. They could one of the things about Trump is they possibly threatened to kill his entire administration and his pets and his family and his friends and everyone, basically. Because I wouldn't be surprised if half the world leaders would be burned by the Epstein client list being revealed in earnest. Because it's like a really shadowy cabal. Or maybe half, maybe a quarter, who knows, but that's a lot regardless. The thing is, they can't threaten to kill my family because I know they go to heaven and the people doing it would go to hell and burn forever and ever. And if you've ever been actually burned, you know how that feels. And it's like, okay, do you really want that forever and ever? Don't touch prophets of God, basically. Or else. And the thing is, they know damn well if they ever care enough to look into me, that I believe that God exists and that he punishes sin to the point that I basically tortured myself nearly to death multiple times out of fear of God. So I believe it. And I'm connected with people that knew the future at least, and I had certain prophetic dreams myself, although I never dictated or communicated them before the events, except for the Trump and possible nuclear war vision that I had, but I admitted at the time that my visions were half true and not fully true. So that's a thing. And it's just sort of okay, they can't really do anything. They can't torture me to death because I already tortured myself nearly to death multiple times out of pants shitting fear of God. So I know God would cover me if they did torture me to death. They can't kill my family because I know for a fact my family would go to heaven for their martyrdom, and the people doing it would eventually go to hell forever and ever. And forever is a long time. And they know I'm a true believer in God because I'm constantly, like, the amount of times I nearly tortured myself to death is, like, insane. And, like, I've been upfront and honest about it from the beginning that I believe in God and I'm scared of God and his anger towards me and so on. So, you know, and they can't even publish dirty things about me that I haven't, like, publicly admitted to myself already. So, like, I'm basically untouchable in any lasting way with eternity as the guidepost. And God can touch them very easily. You know, so the best thing they can do is keep me irrelevant, basically. Because I'm virtually, God's got me on a short leash, basically. I'm incorruptible because God's riding my back like a monkey. You know what I mean? Like, I've got God guiding me, seriously, and, like, that's why I was repenting so hard, and that's the other thing. I also did that to myself as repentance. But that's the point. I'm willing to torture myself to death if necessary to repent because I believe in God that much. So, like, they can't really scare me into avoiding fighting the elite cabal of pedos and leftists and Muslims destroying the world and LGBT and so on. So that's the schizo post for the day, basically. Maybe I'm fighting imaginary enemies in my head or something like that, but it's kind of the Epstein file fiasco is really making people wonder, how deep does this really go? And it's something to consider. It's sort of like it's sort of like it's sort of like One Piece when Roger D. Goldwater says he's the One Piece is real, and then Whitebeard says the One Piece is real, and then like it sparks an absolute mad rush to find it. You know what I mean? And it's like it shatters the world's peace basically, and everyone suddenly goes haywire looking for this particular thing. And personally, I gotta suggest as a non-schizo thing, just really start looking into banking elites and politicians on both sides of the aisle, left and right. And academics who are pro-Islam, pro-LGBT, and/or hate civic society, and/or are banking elites who hate civil society and civic society and so on, and like the neighborhood watch kind of mold of neighborhoods and like strong inter-family connections and like safe neighborhoods with wanted children who are well taken care of by their family and extended family and so on. Look for those who don't like those things in elite circles, and you'll probably scoop naturally a bunch of the pedophile elite cabal, and you'll probably catch more of them than if you looked at the Epstein list on its own, basically. And you'll probably scoop some Epstein clients on top of it. Now, it's a lot more work. It's a lot more work. But, you'll get more fish, basically. You know what I mean? So, yeah. I mean, I am schizo, so, I might be overemphasizing my own importance here. But I distinctly remember my friend basically saying that the search terms were protection from the feds who might try and do something sneaky or shady or something like that to destroy me for my resistance or role in promoting resistance in the past in a way that domino affected a lot of stuff against the shadowy cabal or the various other less Illuminati style or whatever you want to call it kind of LARP and more just generalized elites and so on. And basically all they have to do is look up my search term history in the past that I referenced, and they'll kind of get a real cold water when they're sleeping kind of reality check that, hey, prophets of God really do exist, which means God exists, and you're messing with the wrong crowd in your injustices, and you've been fairly warned, and if you continue, then you will be destroyed, no matter what, because God doesn't tolerate wannabes who have big egos and no powers compared to him. And he doesn't tolerate God complexes and narcissists and egotists and prideful mofos trying to ruin society and civilization for everyone else. So, yeah. Now he's foiled my attempts to show publicly that I'm telling the truth. So it's not Google public search data knowledge, but maybe in their vaults somewhere they have the real search data and they can show it to people that are questioning that and so on. I don't know. But basically for public knowledge it's erased, and it's kind of one of those things that I'm just like, oh, I don't know, whatever, man. Okay, fine, I can't prove I'm a prophet of God's or that I was down with prophets of God, but publicly, but somewhere deep down in the bowels of the deep state, there might be someone who finds that stuff and goes, holy crap, and so on. So, worst that happens is I remain irrelevant and I become a death of despair or something like that. But, that's the worst that'll happen, basically. I don't have any plausible understanding or knowledge of the Epstein files myself or anything like that. I'm totally out of the loop, like most people are. But I was one of the early voices against the totalitarian nature of the left and so on. And I might have had some undue levels of influence given where I am now, comparatively. I don't know. I have no idea. It's one of those things. But it's at least fun to think I have a little bit of secret influence. And I have a little tentative sort of not exactly real evidence entirely, but sort of evidence that sort of says I might have some influence somehow. But it also might be great minds think alike and so on. But it's kind of been happening on and off for a while, and it's like, it just keeps happening, and I don't know if it's just pure coincidence or if I really do have any influence whatsoever. But, I just wanted to share that, and, I'm not living the best life, admittedly, but as long as I've got some level of influence, seemingly even, I'll soldier on. And yeah, so this is some real schizo hours stuff. But yeah, I swear to God, cross my heart and hope to die, go to hell, everything if I'm lying, that I knew prophetic people and they told me a lot about the situation. And they all swore they got it from God, basically. Like 16 different people. Like, damn. One of them told me not to do something I did, but the others all basically were like, oh, no, 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 you should do that, basically. It's good for you in a way. It will work out in the end, and so on. So if my ex-girlfriend comes back, then that's God ordained. And um, if she doesn't, then I guess I was wrong about that, actually. But on about a third of them did say she would come back. So, that's more predictive than all the other stuff they said. And I don't mean predictions were wrong necessarily entirely. About 10 or 20% were wrong, 80%, 90% were right. But what I mean is, like, statistically, they didn't all talk about the same things very much, except on my ex girlfriend returning, and that, like, 6 of them said so. So, like, you know. So I don't know. But I got nothing to live for other than the well-being of my people and society and so on. And while I'm a little worried that my attempts to save the world are a secret attempt to control it, in the H.L. Mencken quote department or something like that, um, yeah, that kind of makes me wonder. Am I secretly trying to control the world or something like that? Through my activism efforts. But um, aside from that worry, it's just like whatever. I got to do what I got to do, and however much influence or clout I get is however much influence and clout I get. And while I definitely want to be growing a little bit, possibly, um, I recognize that my schizoness might prevent that, and maybe I don't have a lot of charisma. Maybe I'm not too informative. Maybe I'm saying basic bitch stuff. But ultimately, I'm solid. What can I say? I'm covered by God, no matter what happens. And I know I am. Like they could, like if I were to get the Epstein list, I could actually publish it just fine, knowing that they would kill all my family, because my family I know will be chilling in heaven as rewards for martyrdom, and they could like torture me to death, and I would like laugh at their faces while I spit up blood or cough up blood, while they like soldering iron my balls off or something like that. Like I'm like that. Like I'm like that level of let's fucking go. To like destroy these people basically. So that's the funny thing about it, right? Like one of the things about the schizos is they're busy fighting Satan and demons, so to speak, in their own minds. And then when it comes to like real world conspiracies, it's like, oh wow, they're pretty off kilter. But a funny thing is, it turns out is you actually can motion detect and motion sensor with Wi-Fi signals. So so that's one mark in their favor, and it looks a lot like the Epstein list thing is a real conspiracy as well. That's a really deep and big one for a lot of global elites or something. Otherwise, it would have been published already. And it's just like, okay, then, if someone's willing to fight Satan and they get the full treatment of spiritual terrors of like Satan and everything he can scream that is going to do to them, and they're still fighting while believing that's going to happen to them. That's a level of courage that you don't necessarily see. Now, a lot of schizos maybe don't have that, but at the same time, it's like never tested, never tried. And at least some schizos, they have that appreciation of what it means to feel genuinely like fighting the good fight is going to result in the devil coming after you personally in ways that are like, well, I mentioned soldering ironing my balls off or something, you know what I mean? Like that level of like, oh my God, he's going to do that to me if I fight him, and I'm still going to fight him kind of courage. I mean, I realize it's kind of all in someone's mind in some cases. But, when you're faced with evil, you can basically turn tail and run, or you can face it head on knowing the worst could happen to you on some level. And that's what God's for, to back you up. Say, hey, you might face the worst he can do, but he's going to face the worst I can do, and I can do a whole lot more than they can. So yeah, that's the source of my courage. What can I say?